Nate Johnson's St. Edward story begins during his Edmond for a Day visit as an eighth grader. Undecided on high school up to that point, Nate was open to the movement of the Spirit as he made his high school decision. That day, Nate felt a deep connection to the St. Edward Brotherhood. He felt seen, heard, and valued in our community. Since then, Nate Johnson has been a St. Edward life force, embracing the pillars of faith, excellence, relationships, and servant leadership in all that he does. Nate's phenomenal impact on the St. Edward community runs deep. He has embraced every moment, every opportunity, every struggle, and every triumph. Nate brings Father Moreau's vision for Holy Cross education to life in all that he does. He is a resurrection man who brings the joy of Jesus' victory over death to all that he encounters and in all that he does. Simply by entering into the mission of St. Ed's on his own uniquely beautiful way, Nate has inspired many, including me, to more fully realize what it means to be an Edsman. Nate's younger brother, Ben, a member of the St. Edward class of 2027, writes, "I wanted to follow in his footsteps when it came time for me to choose my high school. I chose to attend St. Edward High School for the brotherhood, athletics, and my family connections through Nate. The school was just right for my brother and I. Nate is an amazing brother, son, man, and embodies what it means to be an Edsman." Mr. Cavali's freshman Latin class baptized Nate into high school academics. He recalls Mr. Cavali challenging him to reach his fullest potential in the classroom while being one of the kindest souls he's ever met. As he's grown as a student leader, Mr. Merriman, Mr. McPartland, and Mr. Linville have been essential to Nate's St. Ed's experience. He credits them and the whole faculty with giving Nate the space to become himself. Completing the extended essay, TOK, talks after theology class, and retreats are some of the most formative moments of his life at St. Edward. Nate's mom says, "Nate's academic prowess in the classroom is an intrinsic motivation. He has always had a love for learning and has very high standards for himself, never backing down from a challenge and working through tough situations with stamina and perseverance. An example would be 9th and 10th grade Latin class. It was sometimes a thorn in his side, but he did not quit or change languages. He persevered and found joy in the struggle." Nate fully embodies Pope Francis's call for us to be people of authentic encounter and joy. In 4 years, I have never had an interaction with Nate that did not lead me to joy. Close friend and classmate Gavin McLaughlin says, "Nate is one of the most down-to-earth and humble people I know. He brings people together and is always building bridges between groups." Close friend and classmate Nathan Mosgras says, "Nate is inviting, welcoming, and draws people into relationship. Drawing friends and classmates into Kairos, or even for an early morning coffee at Rising Star, are two simple ways in which Nate seeks to be a person of authentic encounter."
Nate and I always go to Rising Star, like for first period study hall. He's addicted to that place. But Nate and I really met him through theology last year. And the biggest thing that I learned about him is he's so inviting. And I know it's kind of silly, he invited me to go to a coffee shop. I got to really know Nate better, and grow connections with some of his friends too.
When I see Nate with his friends, I see a young man who cares deeply about the well-being of others. Director of Campus Ministry, Mr. Linville says, "Nate is always a guy who will bring a smile to your face."
Every single time he'd walk in, he'd be like, "Who wants to chill, bro? Everyone's chilling. Who's chilling?" So that's one thing that always brought a lot of joy for me, because he'd always be like, "Who's chilling? Who wants to chill, bro?" And that means NHL. Who wants to play NHL on the Xbox? So it's a really funny little bit with him that he'd always come in.
He's just happy to be around, and seeing him in the halls, he's always got that smile, always willing to help if you ever need any help.
Even as he navigates some of the inherent hardships of being a teenager in today's world, Nate is fully present for his Edsman brothers. Nate reminds me that education is joyful work of the resurrection, and every encounter I have with him leads me to a greater understanding of and appreciation for our shared work as Holy Cross educators.
He's allowed me to get out of my comfort zone in so many things, and just not take everything so seriously, which is something I really needed to work on as a person. He always says to me, he's like, he'll go, "Bro, it's not that deep. It's not that deep." But now, I almost say that to myself 20, 25 times a day, not taking everything so seriously, and just being able to like enjoy life and like being with other people. He's kind of like helped me realize that in my last couple of years here.
I think some of the ways that he connects with people comes from knowing himself. In his life, he's gone through some experiences that have like taught him sort of like what matters and what doesn't matter and where he needs to stress and where he needs to not stress. So he does, I think that's added to like the grounded quality that I think Nate really has.
When asked about some of the most important lessons he's learned at St. Ed's, Nate doesn't point to a high GPA, getting into the college of his choice, or any majorly outward achievement. Nate talks about the relationships he's built, the ordinary moments of grace and encounter, and even the moments of hardship as being most formative.
Your talent is important, your ideas are important, but the thing that's going to matter the most outside of school and in life is just that you're kind to other people. Nate is like the exemplar of that for me in this class, and I'm so happy that they're recognizing him.
Nate speaks of St. Edward as the place where he learned to fully inhabit the truth of who he is, and he goes forth with the competence to see and the courage to act for justice, love, and peace. Being at St. Ed's has helped Nate Johnson to become Nate Johnson. I can't think of a more beautiful reflection on our Holy Cross mission than that. Nate is a person of deep faith. He takes seriously what Jesus took seriously: inclusion, compassion, tender love, and acceptance. Nate's mom says, Nate's faith-filled journey began at a young age. When Nate attended Kairos last year as a junior, he came home telling me that it was one of the best experiences of his life, and he wanted to be a leader on Kairos for his senior year. This year, as a senior, he came back and said Kairos was just as profound as last year. Being a part of campus ministry has enriched Nate's high school experience in so many ways. One way was him deciding to become a Eucharistic minister this year. Nate is always thinking of additional ways to become more involved in serving the Lord and giving back to his community. He reads scripture every night before bed, and when his friend Caleb was in the hospital, Nate asked the family and friends who were there to join hands and pray. Throughout his 4 years at St. Ed's, Nate has appreciated opportunities to take ownership of his faith. Retreats like Kairos, setting up for Mass, and daily moments of encounter like Faith Friday or hanging out in campus ministry have given Nate the space to develop a mature spirituality and a deep relationship with the living God. Nate credits his experience of setting up for Mass as a student minister as helping him to more fully realize the sacramental significance of the Eucharist, giving him the eyes to see the grace in and through all things. Nate is a servant leader. Nate's mom continues, he cares about people's feelings, and that is expressed in his interactions with them. He always says, "Thank you, Mom, for dinner," and never goes to bed without saying, "Good night and love you." He has an innate way of comforting others and showing love and compassion. For Nate, service to others is not simply about unilateral charity, it is about solidarity, building relationships with neighbors on the margins so that those margins cease to exist. Nate embraces this year's theme. He is always seeking to be with and of those who have been too quickly cast aside in our society. As the Holy Cross Constitutions say, Nate comes not just as a servant, but as a neighbor, knowing that there is much to learn from every encounter, every relationship, every person. Small gestures of authentic presence are a hallmark of Nate's personhood. A hallway hello, a quick smile, or a check-in with a friend are daily aspects of Nate's life. Nate has been a shining beacon of hope and joy and love for me. In so many ways, he's reminded me of why I became an educator, to learn from and be inspired by people like Nate. I am deeply grateful beyond words for the opportunity to have been a part of Nate's St. Edward journey. Nate, you belong everywhere, and you are going to be a deep source of hope and joy for so many people as you move into the rest of your life. This